Thanks for coming back. This is a very special weekly show for Nonsense Password. On the Nonsense Password Lounge, I had my first guest from outside, who wasn't just like a listener, call-in listener. Jen Senko was kind enough to come and spend 3 hours with me on the Nonsense Password Lounge. The first guest. I was very happy for it. This all was around my dad disowning me about making a joke about Donald Trump. Jen Senko, a few years ago, made a movie called The Brainwashing of My Dad, which is very relevant and very interesting. And she's a very intelligent and interesting person. And I really liked hanging out with her. We spent 3 hours talking. It's very chill. It's very nice. And I very much enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy it too. So please check out Jen Senko here, coming up here very soon. And if you like the Nonsense Password or you like Nonsense Password Lounge, please share the show. Please talk about us on social media. Please rate us in iTunes or wherever that can happen, Podchaser, whatever. And if you're looking for all of the Nonsense Password projects, you can find them at nonsensepassword.com. Anyway, without any further ado, here's the show. Here's the interview that I had with Jen Senko. Thanks for coming to the Nonsense Password Lounge, where the password is always nonsense. This, of course, is a special episode where I will have Jen Senko here. I'm more than delighted. I'm more than thrilled. She made The Brainwashing of My Dad, and overall, she's a very interesting person. We were sorting out technical issues earlier, so she won't be able to join me on her own Podbean account. But we'll do this through Skype, and you'll be able to hear us, and everything should work out pretty good, except that I don't think she'll be able to hear callers. But we'll try to make that work out. I'll be happy to ask her any questions after we talk for a little while. She seems like a very nice person. I called her on the phone earlier to try to troubleshoot a few things, but the Podbean app does not work for her. So I got her on Skype, and we'll be talking here pretty soon. So to give you all a little background on what's going on here, famously, about a month ago, earlier this month actually, my own dad disowned me for making a joke about Donald Trump. My dad, the sweetest man in the world, greatest guy I ever knew, only reason why I'm a decent human being, actually, lost his shit on me after telling me, drug dealer or serial killer, you're still my boy. He's been isolated a little bit since the COVID situation. He is now 72 years old, but he's still a 3-sport coach and a teacher. He really cares about people, and he really cares about kids. But he's been isolated a little bit with God knows what. And he's been getting kookier and kookier until he finally lost his shit, and he disowned me. He said, don't call here, don't come around here anymore, you're no longer my son. Lost his fucking mind. Well, Jen Senko heard this episode and said that she's interested in coming onto my show after somebody else recommended it, because we have a lot in common, actually. And she has a very interesting biography that I'm really amazed by. Yeah. Well, my dad disowned me and then 2 weeks later re-owned me. And we had a strange conversation about hawks and armadillos. And actually, I just talked to him about half an hour ago. He's painting some trim on the house. He seems kind of bothered. He seems kind of disturbed. He seems kind of like irked by my very existence. But we at least have a little kinship. Does he own you outright now or still on terms? It's a payment plan. It is a payment plan. I'm actually leased. Everybody's leasing now. Don't own your son when you can lease him. Them's the rules. But she's really interested in like media literacy and propaganda and everything. And if you've seen The Brainwashing of My Dad, her documentary, it's really interesting because she has this personal touch to it where she is talking about her own father who's aging, but how his personality absolutely changed. But he's also like sort of like trapped himself in this echo chamber, which has, left him with this very different mindset and this very different attitude. And she does a pretty good analysis of the rise of the right-wing media. Now, nobody panic. I mean, the corporate media thing in general is a problem, but it largely reflects right-wing media. So just calm down. Very good. I had to reroute everything, so I've been kind of nervous about how everything would work out. But I think this is okay. She sounds great. Very cool. Jen Senko, oh my God, thank you so much for joining me at the Nonsense Password Lounge. I've been really interested in talking to you since I think you're aware of the thing that happened with my dad, right?
I don't know. Am I?
Yeah. You sent me in a message that you listened to the episode where.
Oh.
Here's what happened to me. My dad's like the greatest guy I ever knew, right? And,
yeah.
And he's really the only reason why I'm a decent person. I grew up around like crazy, racist, closed-minded people, but my dad's always been more skeptical, and he's not racist at all, and which is very weird for where I come from. But he's always been very accepting of me, even though we have very different lives and everything. And he was always like, drug dealer or serial killer, you're still my boy and everything, Well, he's a teacher and he's a 3-sport coach. And because of COVID, his school closed down. So he's been isolated and listening to God knows what. I am figuring probably talk radio, AFR, stuff like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I called him the day after Father's Day. And this wasn't totally out of the blue. Things have been getting kookier and crazy over the last couple of years with my whole family.
Oh, boy.
And I was talking to him for a little bit, and I made one joke. It was just a stupid joke. I joke with him all the time about the Trump Tulsa rally. I don't even know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he flipped out. And then so we were talking back and forth a lot, and things got a little more heated, and we're kind of yelling at each other. And he's like, "Don't call here. Don't come around here. You're no longer my son."
Oh, God.
And then
terrible.
And then he hung up the phone. And then about a week later, my mom texted my wife this picture of this package that they received. And they thought that it was something that I sent them in order to hurt my dad worse over this horrible Trump joke that I made or whatever.
Yeah.
And what's really funny about that is that's something that they did to hurt me years ago, where they made this big donation to American Family Radio in my name. And so
wow.
they get these packages all the time to me, but they never say where they're from. And they always ask me if I was expecting a package or something. And I was like, no, I didn't send that to you to hurt him. You sent that to me to hurt me. Open the package, right? And then so we started talking a little bit, me and my mom. And then she's like, your dad cried all night. And then I'm like, well, he knows my phone number. So about 2 weeks later, he called me, and he was talking to me about the hawks in the yard and the armadillos. We're country bumpkins. We're from way out in the sticks, And we didn't talk about anything political or anything like that. And it's all kind of sad. And I actually saw the Brainwashing of My Dad a few years ago, and then I watched it again recently since I started talking to you. And I'm a fan of the work, and I know that you had a very similar experience with your dad.
Yeah.
He was you said he was like a Kennedy Democrat.
Yeah. That's really sad what happened with your dad. But it sounds like was he trying to make up with you that he called you 2 weeks later?
Yeah, but it seems like it is like well, okay, you're biologically my son, but I can't stand you. I actually talked to him about half an hour ago.
Yeah.
And we had just sort of like this weird thing where like he doesn't even recognize me as his kid anymore. But
did he say that? Did he actually say that?
No, he's trying to play nice now for whatever reason. He's like bearing He's bearing whatever he needs to in order to be a good dad at this point, even though I've gone majorly astray because I make fun of Donald Trump sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, has he said to you, so maybe he felt guilty about how he behaved. Maybe it hit him later.
Yeah, I don't know. See, and he's always been the type of guy where he'll just he's really stand up. He doesn't mess around. Like, he's such a stand-up guy that pretty much everybody that I grew up with call him dad. They give him plaques calling him dad. When I was younger, we were always dealing with troubled kids. We would go hunt kids that ran away from home, and we'd take care of them and stuff like that, you know, just like a really, really stand-up guy. So, so if he felt that he did something wrong, I'm sure he would have told me.
Well, it might be harder to say it to his son, but what you're describing is a phenomenon. It's beyond a phenomenon. It's an epidemic in this country, and this is what's so tragic about it. And I feel like for years and years and years, I've been running around with my hair on fire, trying to warn everybody about this right-wing war on Democrats, democracy, and anybody but billionaires.
Yeah, anybody but billionaires, right?
Yeah. So, you know, the people think it's just Fox. Fox is like, you know, the number one bullhorn. It's the loudest bullhorn. Plus, it's got visuals, and that's extra stimulating. But I was seeing my dad get these emails for years and years and years. And, you know, he'd forward them all to us, and we would beg him, please, please, please don't send us these emails. But the nature of them, they were just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is going on? They were just always like attacking Democrats. And when I was young and I was growing up, there was just no big deal between Republicans and Democrats. It just, you know, whatever. There was no animosity or anything like that.
There's somebody.
Yeah, so I was just so surprised to see the venal, the vehemence. How many V words can I come up with? The very, very, very hostile emails.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's when it dawned on me that somebody, something, somehow is trying to get people to hate Democrats. And it's not just hate them or hate their policy, but like feel that they're like evil and the worst people on earth. And that's what your dad is obviously subject to, either Fox News or Rush Limbaugh, you know, Mark Levin, one of those guys, and he may be on some email lists.
I'm thinking it's probably Rush Limbaugh, because actually it's interesting that you mention it, because like in the late 80s, I remember sort of like that thing, no big deal between the Democrats and Republicans, right? And then I remember Rush Limbaugh showing up. And Rush Limbaugh showed up on our local Fox station. And I remember him, he was on TV here before he was on the radio. And all of his first like 10 shows I saw were just people sending in stuff like, we love Rush, like Rush forever, you know? And he was just like,
dittos Rush.
He was just really developing this cult of personality before anything else even happened, before we got any other content. And so I remember watching him on TV with my dad. And at first we're like, damn, this guy must be pretty great, you know? And then we're just kind of checking it out. And then nothing really happened. But then the show kind of was like suddenly like under siege for however many days that Bill Clinton was in the White House. And there was like this constant countdown. And then I remember we didn't have the internet or anything for a few years after that. And I saw a lot of those emails, those early emails. And a lot of people don't realize that, but the right wing / the Republicans were killing the email game back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
They were killing it.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, there were think tanks that were designing some of these emails. You know, they didn't just like come from some ordinary person like you were supposed to think they were, you know, like somebody just going, oh, hey, I'm going to write this story, or I'm going to tell my story, or I heard about this event. No, these are like guys sitting in a room coming up with this shit, you know? Like making arrows, poisoned arrows of emails just to sling as many as possible. And, you know, once you get hooked in, like you get Rush, like he'll say, you know, you just get on, they get on all these sites and all these lists. And you know, if it's not the emails, then it's also the snail mail too.
Yeah. Yeah, my uncle got an autographed picture of George W. Bush, and I still don't know how that happened. It was all very strange.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you know, you have these emails. They're very focused on, you know, fear and division and everything, and it seems to tap into some part of the psyche of these, especially people who are like kind of like isolated from other cultures. Don't know people from other cultures, and so it feeds into this fear of the unknown, and then it's kind of grabbed onto, especially because, and I think it was very well expressed in your documentary, just like the way that it's presented with so much confidence. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, there are people that kind of have that talent. You know, Sean Hannity has that talent.
Yeah.
Rush Limbaugh obviously has that talent, and he knows it, and he talks about it. And it's like, you know, there's a point in my movie where I'm showing it, a very old interview of him with Miggs, just a local TV show. And he says, the whole point is to get you mad. And people keep coming back, you know, and they always ask me, do you believe all this stuff you say? And he said, well, you know, that's for you to figure out.
That's for you.
And he goes, and people haven't figured out the formula. The formula is to get people mad, and it keeps them coming back. And it's just a money-making machine for Limbaugh. And like you said, it's this confident certitude they have. You know, one of the guys in my film, Steve Rendell, he was a co-founder of FAIR. You know, FAIR is Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting organization. Yes. And he went on assignment for FAIR, and, you know, to listen. Oh, no. He was working with a bunch of guys outside, and they all listened to Rush Limbaugh. And his job with FAIR was to listen. And he said, and this guy, like, knows his stuff. He said that Rush sounded so confident that he'd have to actually go back and check his facts over and over again. Even somebody like him, who was sophisticated, super knowledgeable, super confident in what he knew. This is how hypnotists work. This is how snake oil salesmen work. This is how con men work, because they are just really confident.
Yes, it's absolutely true. And it's, you know, emotions are such like a universal language, right? So if you affect somebody emotionally and you make them feel some sort of kinship to you emotionally, and then back that up with confidence, that's a huge deal. I mean, emotion is such a big deal. It's sort of like, you know, the basis of like good advertising. It's the basis of good music. You know, people know if they're going to have a hit if it makes you feel something emotionally. And people, you know, who are spreading information for whatever reason, know that they can get a bigger audience if they have some sort of, you know, if they make the audience have some sort of emotional response to it. And Facebook even figured that out. That's why the Facebook algorithm got things out of control. And and it's how, like, it really helped in this fragmentation of the media landscape, and, you know, sort of like how this stuff spreads like wildfire on social media. You have all of these people, they go into like this certain emotional cue. And you said something about your dad where it's like he couldn't wait to get mad, like he needed that outlet.
Yeah.
And then so Facebook actually changed their algorithm, so people were getting mad. They were getting mad more often, and they were engaging more often. And it just really got things out of control. And I teach digital literacy and media literacy. And in my media literacy classes, I've determined I designed it very carefully, because I've learned from adventures in past lives that if you attack somebody's worldview, they will tune you out. You're immediately the enemy. So I teach it, you know, very, very unjudgmentally, right?
Yeah.
I don't really judge anything particularly. I just say, here are some specific cases, and here's how they work, and these are the things that you should look for. And my number one thing is, if you are reading something or consuming something that you think is trying to affect you emotionally while presenting what it's calling as facts, you should always dig deeper. You should always care before you share.
Yeah. Yeah. Care before you share. I haven't heard that one. I was like, what's my saying? Source it before you send it, or something that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you know, I have like a couple of a friend, and then like a cousin recently. They sent me can I say shit?
Yeah, sure. Here? You can say whatever you want. It's an explicit show. You wouldn't believe how wild this show gets. I wish you had the Podbean app. You could appreciate how wild this show gets.
Oh, well, I don't really understand how your show works. You said something like I could hear comments, or like just ignore the comments. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, you can't see them because you're not actually in the Podbean app. One of the I'm really disappointed because I can't play the ukulele. I'm used to playing the ukulele during the show. And we're
that's too bad. Well, if you want, I can whistle and do bird calls. So
nice.
Just let me know if you'd like to hear some bird calls.
You know, that's something.
But also, I can bark like a small dog.
You know what? I am such a huge fan of Bill Plimpton, and I was looking at your IMDb, and I had no idea you were involved with the tune "Or I Married a Strange Person." I had no idea.
Yeah, I was Smiley the Clown.
That's amazing. I love Bill Plimpton so much. I threw money at his last project.
He's a genius.
Yeah, he's great.
I mean, he's really like a master, like in that he understands shadow, light, dark, shape. He understands anatomy so well that he can play with it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a believability about his characters.
Yeah.
No, he really, his level of skill, and it's just masterful.
His art has like this really easily relatable, surreal quality to it too that I've just always admired. I think the first time I ever saw a Bill Plimpton cartoon is when I was a little boy and I was watching the Tracy Ullman show.
Yeah.
And it was this one where they were just going through the neighborhood, and I was like, this is like the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've been a big fan of his ever since. So
did you ever see Your Face? You've seen Your Face, which was on MTV. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah.
When I was promoting this show, I was like, and she did voices for some Bill Plimpton work, and people were like, "Who's Bill Plimpton?" I'm like, "Bill Plimpton. Never come to my show again if you don't know who Bill Plimpton is."
Yeah, really. They gotta get with the program. He's you know, he's in his upper 60s, but I mean, he's still got like all these young people, animators that understand who he is and his talent, and they want to work for him and stuff. So he's still got a young following, pretty young following. of animators. But yeah, he and I used to actually have a country western thing that we did. Like he would play guitar and I would go over there and we'd do Patsy Cline songs.
Nice.
And Hank Williams songs. And, I was just practicing my singing and it was a lot of fun. Because he used to he had a little band that on the side. I mean, his love is drawing. He gets up in the morning and he draws, and the last thing he does before he goes to sleep is draw. But he had this little, music thing too.
I had no idea. When did you do when did you guys do your country music thing?
Many years ago.
I'm so psyched. I had no idea. I think you're so interesting. And I was just like, oh my God, she even knows Bill Plimpton. This is amazing. And the tune and I Married a Strange Person are two of his biggest works. Yeah.
I also did some cell painting for him. But I think the voiceovers were the most fun thing that I did for him.
Those are timeless works too. I mean, those will be around forever.
Yeah.
So I was talking to you in your email. You said you just got done writing a book.
No, I am writing a book.
Oh, you're writing a book. Oh.
Yeah, I started in 2017 because I was frustrated that not enough people were having me on their TV shows or radio shows. Not because of me. I'm really actually shy when I get on those shows, and I'm always afraid I'm going to get tongue-tied or forget what I'm saying. But because I feel my movie is one of the most important movies of the decade.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I feel that. And so it seemed like they have people that write books on more often than filmmakers. So little did I realize it was just that it was too bold a subject at the time. They didn't want to go there. But so I said, okay, well, I'll write a book. And I was been writing. And then last year, I was on vacation and I got an email. I got this email that was from Source Books publishers, and they said, "We just saw your little video on Now This, and we know you have got this movie, but have you ever considered another source of publishing, like writing a book?" And I said, "Oh, funny, you should ask." So that's what I've been working on with them for the past year, but COVID interrupted it for a while.
Oh yeah, COVID's interrupting everything. Hey, so are you familiar with the story of Idiocracy?
No, I don't think so.
Have you seen Idiocracy?
No, I don't think.
You should watch that movie. You should watch it immediately. It's amazing. It is. The premise is that this guy who's the most average guy ever ends up being frozen. He's like tested as being the most average guy ever. And he wakes up like decades in the future. And because everybody else is so dumb, he is like the smartest man alive. And Mike Judge made this movie, and he made it for Fox. And it's a classic. People love this film. It is one of the most amazing films ever, because it's like people watch it and they're like, yeah, we're living in Idiocracy right now. It's what it is. But he made it for Fox, and Fox actually limited its release because they felt that it was demeaning their audience.
The audience wouldn't even know it was demeaning to them.
But it still ended up definitely like a cult classic and everything, you know. And
is it animated or is it with
no,
actors?
It's live action. Tyler Wilson's in it. Yeah, and Maya Rudolph. And Terry Crews. Yeah, I'm trying to remember everybody in it. Yeah, but you should definitely watch it. And
I just wrote it down.
And that's the situation with that. And you mentioned earlier. Now I've been talking to people about you coming on the show for about a week now, And some of them are like, oh, great, we're going to hear, all about, vote blue no matter who. And, how, liberal media is the only thing that's right and everything. But, I think the Bernie Sanders
what
campaign.
Liberal media?
Huh?
What liberal media?
Yeah, exactly. I think I don't know how you feel about Bernie, but I've been a big fan of Bernie since way before anybody knew about him. I loved I'm
a fan.
And I loved like a long time ago him coming up, giving speeches to empty congresses, and it was like we're all a bunch of crooks speeches, and I'm like, I love this guy. He's fucking hilarious. And then when he ran in 2016, I was like, okay, my favorite for president in 2016, Vermin Supreme. Number 2, Bernie Sanders. But I figure he'll just pull it like 3% and then just be pushed along to the side because he's too radical, Even though he's like this democratic socialist, his ideas are too wacky and the media is just going to push him aside. Well, he ends up being like the most popular politician alive today. And, he has all this real world momentum and everything. And, he's a Democrat or he's not a Democrat or whatever. He's running on the Democratic Party ticket. And supposedly he has all of these positions that are supposed to be friendly towards the Democratic ticket. But it was a wake up call for a lot of people to see how outlets like CNN and MSNBC and NPR treated him.
Yeah.
Like I remember listening to a thing where it's like, introducing all of these candidates. They introduced every single candidate running for president at the Democratic Party, except for one.
Yeah.
And it was Bernie Sanders, the most popular politician in America.
Well, Democrats, this is one thing I do talk about in my book, is how Democrats have shot themselves in the foot many times, and have been very timid. And, there's a lot of different reasons why, and I'm not sure I understand them all. But I read Bernie Sanders before I knew about him, because I get reader-supported news. And so I would read some of the articles that he wrote, and I wrote, wow, this guy really just is very forthright and says a lot of things I agree with, and I admire him. So then when I heard he was running for president, I was like, wow. And I personally felt that he could have won against Trump because people were looking for something else, and so it was either going to be the orange mop top, snake oil salesman, or it was going to be the wild white-haired, Democratic Socialist guy. But the DNC kind of chose Hillary, and anyway, she, I just knew that people wanted something else, and that's why I felt like Bernie really could have won against Trump. But there was all these voting debacles and a computer. That election was also stolen. Yeah. I mean, that I write about in my book,
at least by
too.
The existence of the Electoral College, at the very least.
Well, at the very least, but there were voters that were disenfranchised, knocked off the voter rolls.
Oh yeah, I was one of them. My vote got thrown out, I learned later, because I ended up voting for Jill Stein. Because I couldn't vote for Gary Johnson because he smoked way too much weed and started supporting the TPP. So I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that, Gary. Why do you have to go that far? But I'm from Kansas. I am as Kansas as it gets. I'm from what's supposed to be the deepest red of the red state, right? I'm surrounded by Trumpers. I'm surrounded by people who are willing to do all sorts of mental gymnastics to compromise every principle that they have to support this man. But at the same time, all those people would have voted for Bernie. He would have won Kansas.
Yeah. The idea was that he was authentic.
Yeah.
You know, they and Hillary, I think, started out, you know, pretty good. But I honestly, I think she was traumatized and had PTSD from all of the shit the Republicans have been throwing at her for 20 years. I mean, that had to have damaged her a lot. And, you know, she was just too careful in everything she was saying, you know, trying to be, and that's what people don't want. They want someone who believes what they're saying and who is not trying to walk like a fine line. And that's what Bernie was, and that's what Trump seemed like. But again, remember we were talking about very confident people?
Yes.
You know, like Rush Limbaugh. Bernie was the real thing.
Yes.
Trump came across like the real thing because he was so out there.
Yes.
And he wasn't a politician.
Yes.
You know, so they believed that. And he was confident.
It's a big question, too, because, you know, Trump shows up and he's saying fake news, whatever. And he's saying it at a time where justifiably the perception of corporate media giving anybody anything accurate was pretty much like at an all-time low. And so at the same time, too, the perception of myself and many people around this show is that the Democratic Party is not an actual opposition party. It's all a show. They all have the same agenda. And so that's why the you know, you have CNN and MSNBC who, you know, treat Bernie worse than they treat Trump. I've seen many things, polls with primaries and everything, where they would have an accurate number next to Bernie, but they would put him out of order. Like
I saw that.
It's happened so many times.
I saw that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So it's like we're wondering now. I mean, like we look at Joe Biden, who's to the right of George Bush. I really feel that he's to the right of George Bush, and he's supposed.
I don't think that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think that.
Do you think? What do you think about Joe Biden?
Okay, it's complicated and nuanced. I like Joe Biden early on when I saw how he slayed Paul Ryan in when Obama was running and he debated him. One thing I like about Joe Biden is he doesn't try and be nicey, you know, slice and dice it. He can, you know, he can be pretty frank and can stand up when he and like show him getting mad, and I like that about him.
Yeah, he has more of a Republican posture than most Democrats in that sense.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it Republican. I would just call it refreshing. Yeah. And like that's what wins. That's what wins people. That's what people are drawn to. You want somebody to be able to stand up for you or themselves, you know, instead of being namby-pamby. There are things that I think he's old-fashioned. I think that, you know, he did a lot of things I don't like. He, you know, was, but honestly, I think he's been influenced by Bernie. He's been influenced by, he knows he has to be more progressive. I worry a little bit that, you know, just like with anybody, once they get in office, then the voices that they hear are not the voices that are on the ground and that are typical of the country. They're the politicians, you know, so I'm a little worried that he'll get swayed. But there's no way he is to the right. I'm sorry to disagree with you. There's no way he's to the right of George Bush. I understand where you're coming from in saying that, but George Bush started
a war that Biden very much supported, and then there's the 1994 crime bill, and then there's the whole thing with Anita Hill. Do you think that he is, I mean, like, it's too bad that we can't have Bernie in 2020, because Bernie actually has an enthusiastic base. And I don't see an enthusiastic base underneath Joe Biden. I really don't. Do you think that he's a better candidate than Hillary was in 2016?
Yeah, I definitely do, because he's more real, he's more compassionate, and Hillary was just stifled, like she had PTSD, man. She just could not be. Everybody said, like, when you talk to her in person, like, she was just a much like more pleasant person. He comes across as compassionate. I think he is a much better candidate. I honestly, I'm more. I don't want to say excited. I'm
more optimistic.
Somewhere cross between excited and optimistic, but like more. I don't know the word, but about Joe Biden than I am about Hillary. And believe me, when I was watching those debates, oh my God, I thought, oh no. But I think, again, he's not very good in debates, but I feel hopeful. Yeah, because also he's got a huge progressive movement that is pushing him, and he knows it. Yeah. And he knows he had to win Bernie supporters.
Which he hasn't. He would if I don't know who his VP is going to be, but if it's Nina Turner, I'd vote for him. But I mean, if we got to do like Kamala Harris or something, there's pretty much no way.
No way what?
That I'm supporting him. How do you feel about his mental health?
Wait a minute. Are you saying you wouldn't vote for him?
No.
Are you have to be kidding me. You would risk letting that.
The thing is, the thing.
Idiot.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, like, no.
Get in?
I'm not saying that I would vote for Donald Trump. There is no way that I would vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, but if you don't vote for Biden, that's a vote for Trump.
Well, whoever I vote for is whoever I vote for, right? And I'm not going to vote for either one of them. Biden's going to have to do something because I honestly, from where I sit and I'm looking at him, and I've been aware of Joe Biden for years, and I look at him and I'm like, what's the alternative here? What is the difference? And it's like racism's more subtle. What else? Also, I'm concerned about his mental health. You know?
Yeah, well, whose mental health are you more concerned about? Trump's or Joe Biden's?
It's just the way my perspective on how I approach these things, right? So it's like, if I'm going to vote for somebody, that means that they're above standard still, right? And to me, from their political careers and everything they've done, both Trump and Biden are below standard. The only way that I would personally vote for Joe Biden is if he had a VP that I really liked, because, you know, he doesn't seem to be there to me. He seems to
What do you think about Stacey Abrams? Do you like her?
Stacey Abrams was okay. Yeah, I don't hate her. I'd much prefer Nina Turner.
Yeah, but she's not on his short list. So, yeah. But Stacey Abrams is on his list.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly like, it would be pretty exciting that he did pick a Black woman. I hear you about Kamala Harris. I think she's kind of just like goes the way the wind blows, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think she's got a solid core. I don't hate her, but I mean, if you just stop and you think like 10, 15 years ago, a Black woman VP.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty right on.
The important thing to me is not that it's a Black woman, right? Like Kamala Harris, I see as part of the establishment and kind of terrible. So she's not going to work for me, right? And so I see this whole structure around Joe Biden, who are also around Hillary Clinton, that seem to unfairly push who is the most popular politician in the country, who I support, out of the way. I can't reward that behavior, right? I can't reward Joe Biden and the Democrats, especially because I don't see what they're going to do that's actually going to change anything. It seems to me like they're just going to talk nicer.
Well, I respectfully disagree. I understand where you're coming from, but if Trump gets in and has another 4 years, there goes the environment. We have no hope of ever fixing climate change.
Yeah.
There goes more deregulation. We'll have, I mean, it's like we live in the Soviet era of Russia now. You ever try and get somebody on the phone to help? Okay, everything is so deregulated. If it deregulates more, we're just more fucked. We'll have military rule. He hates any kind of protesters, like Black Lives Matter. Forget it. He'll have like the DeVos, Blackwater, pitchfork guys with guns out there killing us.
Right.
I protested in Black Lives Matter,
right.
COVID or not. I mean, I wore a mask, but it was very exciting to me. See millions and millions and millions of people out there. We are the majority.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a huge difference. Even if Biden just kind of tilts it back towards the middle and in a place that I feel like I could help mobilize. We have so much organization on the ground now that we have a chance of pushing them further to the left. If we get Trump in, we are fucked.
Yeah.
We are so fucked. We are never coming back. It's not going to be America. There's not going to be any democracy at all. We're just fucked up the wazoo so bad it'll stink to high heaven, and I'll probably move out of the country.
Yeah, actually, I have a friend who lives in Colombia right now, and she's not coming back until Trump is out, and she's saying that she's having a great time. And I totally hear you on Trump. Trump's been a god-awful president. This misinformation machine around him is god-awful, but so is the misinformation machine around like the Democratic Party establishment, largely because they're the same machine. And everything you said, right? So you got the brutal crackdowns on protesters, right? During the Obama years, that's when cops started showing up in military gear in Ferguson and everything else. You're worried about the environment. That's when the Dakota Access Pipeline is going through, and these people have this grievance. And that they were brutally cracked down upon too. We have the water in Flint, Michigan. That wasn't dealt with. There was like a whole, spectacle around it with Obama. My problem is that
Bush is the one, by the way, who started giving out the military gear to the police.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I agree
but then
with
that
you
happened
about
under the Obama administration when they rolled out with it during Ferguson and they didn't stop it. I'm looking at these guys and I'm looking at this criminal president and I'm wondering why is he not being held accountable? And it's like anything the Democrats have done, it's for show. It's like they really love this culture of corruption and they don't want to actually sacrifice it. And they would much rather have Donald Trump than Bernie Sanders. And to me, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. That shows me that they're not a legitimate alternative. And that's why I have a lot of trouble supporting anybody part of that establishment, because they're all the same party from my perspective.
I'd rather fight Democrats than I would Republicans, because we have a better chance at fighting Democrats. The Republicans are immovable. They're far right. They're cultists. They're Nazis. They're the horrible, truly wicked, evil people. I mean, if you read the Lewis Powell memo, that's where it comes from, okay? The Democrats are fucking wimps. They frustrate me to no end. That's what I write about in my book. I think you'll love my book.
Yeah.
It has a lot of, they've let coups go by, mini coups. We've had at least 3
They're
mini
involved in
coups,
a lot of them. Yeah.
starting with 2000, and they don't fight back. But we got in people like AOC. We got in people like Katie, what's her name? That wise mouth gal. She's fabulous. We got, yeah.
I don't know who you mean. I like AOC though. AOC gets a lot of shit. I don't like her worship of Pelosi because Pelosi doesn't actually seem to be trying. See, that's the thing. You said it earlier.
I think she really worships Pelosi. Between me and you,
Yeah,
I don't think she does.
Yeah, and then it's like she's so friendly to Trump, except for in show. And Trump even offered to help her in her primary opponent, Nancy Pelosi, you know, who's supposed to be this big opposition to him, but she's actually not. You know, nothing has happened. And you said it earlier yourself. You said, like, you know, well, it's like billionaires against everybody else, right?
Right.
And it seems to me that is very, very true. That is pretty much indisputable. And it seems to me what happened is that the right wing is so nasty and ugly and gross because they're affecting people in their fears in order to get this support, and then often like talking them into supporting things against their own best interest, right? But that's just like one part of like the mental landscape, you know? And then it seems like, you know, the Republican Party is just one wing of this corporate party who is then supported by, who's actually even the majority, the Democratic Party, and they do pretty much the exact same thing. They talk people into supporting things that they don't actually support, or they just do it anyway, or they pretend like they can't actually oppose it for like, you know, fundraising efforts or whatever. And like, it doesn't even work out. And so they're actually just like playing this role. And this role that is then helped with like what people would refer to as the liberal media, like the MSNBC, CNN, whatever. And then it's all this massive misinformation, disinformation game, just having people buy into this entire system that's totally phony.
Well, yeah, but see, like what happened in 2018 when we had all of these really like a lot of cool super progressives get in. Okay.
The Justice Democrats.
Yeah, whatever you want to call them, the squad, whatever. The squad, there's several of them. It's not just those four, several, because there's that Katie woman too.
I don't know who that is. Katie.
Well, oh God,
if
she's
anybody
the one who comes up with the charts and
if anybody knows who Katie is, tell me.
Yeah, I could see if it's anyway. That gave me hope, because if we have Democrats in, at least we can replace them with more progressive Democrats. But if we have Republicans in, we're just going to go deeper down that rabbit hole, and we're never coming out. Never. It's a very dark, scary place.
So you're still advocating, like, you know, use the Democratic Party as the opposition party and change them from the inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Michael Moore said this once a long time ago. He said, we hate the Democratic Party the way it is right now. But you know what? They got the fax machines, they got the offices, they got the telephones. Let's take them over. We organize and we do that. And I've been seeing that happen. And that gives me hope. We have no chance of taking over this Republican Party because they're the cuckoo party.
What do you think about just saying fuck you to both of them and then just, staying as an independent or starting a new party?
Well, I think that is maybe a hope for the future. What we get once we get more footing, I think that it has to be. I think that to do that now would be a big wasted time and effort and cause a lot of angst because it would take forever. So I think we have to step on one step at a time. And we have to race up those steps, but we have to be realistic about it. And believe me, I'm an activist. I'm passionate. I fight every single day. If you see my tweets, man.
Yeah.
But I think that at this point, like voting for a third party is throwing a vote away because the Democrats, they're just going to go. They're not going to get anywhere. That it's just pathetic. Okay, they wait. But if we vote and vote our own Democrats in. Then we can fight from within. We just need more AOCs, more Katies, more of those other people.
They seem to have a very deeply entrenched thing to avoid that, though. Avoid having more Justice Democrats in there. There's actually been like funding things inside the party where they have to support certain things. And then the media is just terrible to them, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why we have to fund independent media. Yeah. So, that's why my whole thing is the media, because it begins and ends with the media. The media is how we get our information. And people still watch television. So, if you don't change the media, you're not going to change anything else.
Yeah.
So that's why I contribute to independent media outlets.
And really, television is going away. Like, nobody my age and younger watches television. Mm-hmm. We're all on the internet.
Yeah.
And then
I watch TV because my couch is more comfortable than my computer chair. I can't stand my computer chair. It means work. So I get on my couch.
Frederick from Iran just asked me, what is independent media? The Post, New York Times, what?
Oh, please no, dear. Okay, so it's like alternate. It's media which is funded by its readers. In other words, if you don't please, if you're not being honest and truthful, your readers aren't going to give you money. Your readers are giving you money because they believe that you've got good, solid journalism. So you have outlets like reader-supported news, Common Dreams, alternate, Truth Out.
That's kind of a danger in itself, though, isn't it? Because
sure.
I mean, like, you have this reader-supported media, but then, like, what if the readers are really kooky and they want you to do kooky stuff? Like, Alex Jones.
Then you stop giving to it. Then you stop giving to it yourself. See what I mean? So. The minute like reader-supported news would start getting kooky, I withdraw my funds. I'd start reading somewhere else. So
then there's that danger of getting sucked down that rabbit hole, too.
Yeah. Well, there's always dangers. There's dangers lurking around every corner. Shit, I could step outside my apartment and slam my hand in my door and break my hand, and then I wouldn't be able to eat, and then I could die.
So you think that's the way out, supporting independent media, right?
Yeah.
I have a different approach. I'm just trying to teach people how to consume media, how to become suspicious of things, how to bypass filters. That's pretty much the big deal because, with the boomer generation especially, they were like exposed to television at a young age. Mm-hmm. And it's like, unprecedented in biological history that you have this giant mass of people all watching the television, and it seems like they all still love the television. And anytime I flip on the television, it is a shit show. It is crazy. It is garbage, and it's heavily censored. Like there's nothing going on. And then, my dad's a boomer, my mom's a boomer. They're both batshit fucking crazy because all they do is watch TV and listen to the radio. They don't even have the dangers of the internet to fall into, but they really don't need it because they have all this television and everything,
Yeah. Well, I think what you're doing is great. I mean, that is also in my book, is teaching media literacy. I'm not saying, funding independent media is like the ultimate answer to everything. Yeah. What you're doing is even better than funding independent media. That's really what we need. We need it across the board. We need to teach media literacy in school.
Yeah,
but then we need better schools, Yeah. And the Republicans want to take away public education. At least Democrats don't want to take away public education or the post office.
Yeah, or at least they don't say so outright.
I think there's certain kinds of Democrats that they vary a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the establishment. And I wish that I felt that Joe Biden was a better alternative, or even an alternative, but I see him as largely the same. And I'm waiting for him because I've been working around this hypothesis for the last few years that sure, part of Trump's charm to a lot of his base is his confidence and the wacky shit he says, but also that his ass looks really fat in golf shorts. Because if you look at the pictures of him golfing, he's always throwing that rump around, and you can see it kind of like flexing a little bit, and it's like
very hippopotamus like.
Yeah, there are these like really aggressive beta males, which It seems like in order for fear to work on you, you have to be like, you have to feel vulnerable in some sense, you know? And so they're like, yeah, that's daddy big butt. I follow him.
Yeah, and they've got big butts themselves too sometimes.
Yes. And it seems like Biden was picked by the establishment because they're like, we're going to find the most Trump-like guy in our party to try to take away those votes. And it's like, at which point is he going to get butt implants?
I don't think he's Trump-like. Oh, please. No, really, like being Trump-like is like comparing somebody to like crap.
That's the honest, in all honesty, Jen, that's how a lot of the burners see him.
I mean, you could compare him to Bush, maybe, or Reagan, but not Trump. Oh man!
Have you seen the video of him sniffing all the kids? That creeps people out. And all of his, I mean, like the racist policies, the weird racist stuff that's come out of his mouth.
You know, he's old, so he's like he's growing, he's living and learning.
He's old, and that's the thing too, because he doesn't seem to be all there. It's like a Weekend at Bernie's scenario, and it seems like the Democratic Party propped him up just to insult us.
Yeah, but no, I mean, that's getting a little paranoid. But I mean, you know, I felt that he was severely damaged too when I heard him in the debates. But I do tune into his talks, some of his talks occasionally, and he's so much more articulate, so much more smooth. I couldn't do what he does. I mean, he sounds like he's all there. He sounds like he's right on, and he's not divisive, and he's kind of like an Uncle Joe.
I saw him in South Carolina where he said, "I'm Joe Biden and I'm running for senator of South Carolina." And then about a week later, he was doing a Facebook Live, and he was holding a phone out in front of him, and it seemed to be like he was talking into his phone, and then he just wandered off within like 20 seconds because he didn't seem to know where he was or what was going on.
Well, I hope you don't have any right-wingers that listen to your show, because I wouldn't want to give them fodder, you know, more. Well, I mean,
it's already there. And then like people say too, it's like, you know, well, you know, we can't have Bernie because he's a socialist. There are people calling Joe Biden a socialist. It doesn't matter who's up there, right? Joe Biden is not a socialist.
Yeah. No, a socialist he is not. But I mean, everybody is these righties, and even some Democrats are so scared of socialism. FDR was the biggest fucking socialist, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what makes our country work. If we were 100% capitalist, we'd be more fucked than we are. Like, we'd be fucked faster.
Yeah.
Okay. But because we have and the Republicans read the Koch manifesto, they want to get rid of any social program, even roads, libraries, public education, etc. But if we kind of have a blend of some socialistic policies and capitalistic policies. And so, you know, we're not 100% capitalist. We're not 100% socialist. So when you say democratic socialist, all it means is, yeah, you believe in Social Security. You know, you believe in helping people when they're poor, or when they're, you know, down and out, and giving people a lift, giving people a fighting chance. That's all it is. But the Republicans have worked on that word socialist for a long time. I remember my cousin, who's she's on the right. She was a Foxer because her husband watched Fox. And we were having a disagreement on Crackbook. Facebook.
Isn't it the worst thing ever?
It's useful sometimes. But she was saying something, you know, we were like saying, yeah, we need to raise taxes on the billionaires. And she's like, oh, they're the job creators. And I had like a descendants of friends, like friends just descended on her. And and then a friend of hers got in on the action and called me a socialist. And she said, no, I cannot allow you to call my cousin Jen a socialist. She is not a socialist. And though I was thankful for her, her loyalty to me, I was like, oh man, they really got this word socialist where they want it. Like it's a big bad thing.
And they'll apply it to anybody. Like, Bernie's a democratic socialist, which basically just means taxpayers get to decide where their tax money goes. And actually, that's a very agreeable thing to most people who vote Republican. Like, that would be great if we actually did that. But my point was, you said, you hope no right wingers are listening because that's fodder. But I mean, like the cat's really out of the bag about Joe's mental faculties and his past and everything. Apparently they're not showing that on television, which has been a complaint too. And but
I don't see any point in it now.
Like if George W. Bush was running against Donald Trump right now, and George W. Bush was running on the Democratic ticket, guess what? They would call him a socialist.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. The argument came up recently with defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was arguing with me that defund the police is terrible rhetoric. It's the worst. You need to say something like, reform the police or something. And it's like, no, it doesn't really matter what you say because it's going to be spun as this like, anti-freedom thing in this weird way because, the logical incompatibility between these conservatives with like, being like, having government small enough you can drown in a bathtub versus cheering on federal agents in Portland is really quite amazing when you look at it. But oh shit, I totally forgot where I was going.
Oh, that happens to me too. You forget what you're saying.
Yeah. There was like an overall point, and I just lost it there.
Okay, so wait. So you're talking about defund the police.
Oh, right. Defund the police. So my statement was, defund the police is the perfect rhetoric because what we're saying is we will fuck with your money. We're going to change things and we will fuck with your money. And we are serious. We're not asking, please. We're saying this is how it's going to be because we're the people who give you the money. Right. And they're like, no, because it's not nice enough. You're scaring people. But at the same time, you have to make a strong stance. Otherwise, you end up in a situation like we're in now, where you're constantly, begging to these authoritarians or whatever, and you're constantly playing the lesser of two evils system, which is what we see ourselves in now. A great bulk of the country doesn't see Biden as this great champion who's going to come and change things and makes things right. A lot of people don't even see him as like a valid alternative, and that's literally a majority of the country at this point. But it also doesn't matter who they put in there because it's what the rhetoric's going to be what the rhetoric's going to be.
2 points. I don't think that it is a majority of the country. And then the other point, it doesn't seem to be really. The other point that you said about the term defund the police, that's very interesting. I think you made a very good point because I was torn about that too. I had people saying to me, oh no, it shouldn't be defund the police because that will turn people off. They'll think we don't have any police department at all. And then I got involved in that argument, and then somebody else was saying, yes, but this is their term. This is the term they came up with. Let them have it. And I just decided that, this isn't my thing. I'm not going to make a decision on it. But what I think the point you just made is brilliant in that we, as Democrats or whatever we are, tend to fold before we even lay our hand out. Yeah. So maybe it is good that it's as bold as something like defund the police. Like I said, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it because it did sound really radical and that I thought it was open to a lot of misinterpretation. On the other hand, it's things that are radical that, the Republicans do that trick all the time. Let's throw something really, really radical out there, and then maybe the Democrats will inch toward it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's a statement of negotiation, and like, I don't think that, a lot of people will make the argument, well, people who are Democrats are just naturally like nicer people. And so they won't like try as hard or whatever. But it's like, it seems like the whole party just isn't trying. And it's too bad.
Yeah. I mean, this is how I described it too. I have this little Twitter group. It's called Speak Up. And they're just saying to the group the other day, somebody was saying, are the Democrats not fighting hard enough, or is it me? I said, before they used to come to an AK-47 fight with a smiley face. Now they're coming with a steak knife, which still isn't going to do anything against an AK-47, but they're fighting harder, but still not fighting hard enough.
Well, yeah, and they got this president who they're like calling an existential threat and everything, and at the same time, they're giving him all of the defense money that he could possibly ask for and more. They're not really taking him to task in any way except for his show, and it's just hard to support somebody like Biden in that environment.
Yeah, I'm still going to support him as if my life depended on it, because it does. It does.
Who do you want him to?
Really,
who do you want him to pick for VP?
I think I'm excited about Stacey Abrams. I love Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
I'm
not the biggest fan of Elizabeth.
Yeah. Let's see. Wait a minute. Angela Davis.
Angela Davis.
I just thought of it. I'm just kidding. She's not on the short list.
Oh.
I guess Stacey Abrams.
Tammy Duckworth. I don't know who that is.
Oh, Tammy Duckworth. I like her.
I like
Tammy Duckworth.
I don't know who Tammy Duckworth is. I would love it if he picked either Nina Turner
she's
or
one of
Beyonce.
those people that's really.
If he picked Beyonce, he would win.
Oh man! Now listen, Tammy Duckworth is one of those uber progressive people that got in. She's awesome.
Oh, I'm not familiar with her.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's Hirono, Maisie Hirono. She's also awesome. There's a lot of kick-ass. Well, there's more kick-ass Democrats now than there has been in the last 40 years.
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 now, right?
No, like 10 maybe.
I like 10 maybe.
Okay. Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's a start.
I wish they'd throw a bigger fit, but I do like the squad. I do like them. Mostly.
There shouldn't be, well, nobody's perfect and nobody's going to fit every check mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where we live in a society and there are going to be a lot of different ideas out there.
Yeah.
And I know I have to give some up for others, but.
Yeah. And see, and that's the thing too. I mean, that's what we're talking about. People have all these ideas, but how much of that is actually valid? How much of that is just media driven?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, for whatever agenda, not just right-wing media either,
Oh, no, I know. Everything is media driven. I mean, how much thought is original thought?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
think it depends.
Do we have any original thought? I mean, Einstein maybe had an original thought. How many people really have original thought?
I think I do okay, but people think I'm really fucking weird.
I'd say you're a good and complex thinker.
Thank you.
But I have, everything you've said is, I'm sure, everything I've said, we've both heard in some form or another. And I think that, see, the ideas are out there for the taking. It depends on what corral you go to.
Yeah.
What horse you're going to get. I don't know where I come up with these analogies, by the way. They just come up in my head and they're not always appropriate.
I've always been very resistant to, if anybody's trying to tell me how to think or feel, I've always been resistant to it ever since a little boy. And I started out talking about my dad, and my dad was one of the first people that really instilled that in me. One of my first memories is that I had this globe that was like a beach ball, it was like a blow up globe. And I was a real little boy, and I'm just playing with the ball, and I'm looking at it, and out of the blue, for no reason whatsoever, my dad rumbles towards me, and he goes, "Don't believe the lies, boy." And then he moves the globe around, and he points at Iceland, and he goes, "Iceland is the nice one. Greenland is a big chunk of ice. They called it Iceland to keep you away, but Iceland's the nice one." And that had such a tremendous effect on me.
Yeah. And that sounds, I don't mean to be sexist, but that sounds so dad-like for those days. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my dad was kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he was very open.
And both of our dads got sucked into the same kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
But he never disowned you. I remember you were talking about in your documentary, you were driving by a Hooters or something, and he said something about feminazis.
Yeah.
And it ended up in a fight where he said that you can just walk home.
He told me to get out and hitchhike.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was shocking. I'm a girl.
Yeah, and it just out of the blue too, just like this fit of rage that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I'm like, since when does this matter to him? Why does he have such a strong opinion? Where did this come from? Where did he get it? How come I didn't know about it? There was no transition that I could see. We didn't have any family discussions about this. What, he always encouraged me to, whatever. I was kind of a tomboy in that, I didn't play sports, but I ran around like a maniac, and I could burp with the best of them. And he really liked that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, but it makes me wonder, so my dad's been kind of non-political, but he's always been kind of a Republican, but he hasn't been hateful like he suddenly has become. And it's just because for whatever reason, he believes that the Republicans really care about the troops and really cares about people. My dad was special forces in Vietnam. His body's covered in shrapnel. He's had his hand blown apart and put back together. Very tough guy.
Wow.
And so he has this thing where he's just he felt really bad when he came back from Vietnam because he didn't feel and he thinks the war is stupid, or at least he did up until recently. He told me when I was younger, he's like, look, we fought a war against an economic theory. How stupid is that? It's the stupidest thing that ever happened. But recently he's trying to make it a point of pride when he's done so many more things that he should be proud of. He's made a significant impact in so many people's lives, so many people that just love him, that this minuscule stupid thing shouldn't matter to him anymore. But he's been a Republican, just because, and there's always been this attitude where it's men are Republicans, girls are Democrats, that sort of thing. But,
really? I never heard that before.
Oh, that's pretty much the attitude in out in the sticks, you know,
Yeah.
and like the ladies will even say, yeah, we're married so we can cancel each other's vote.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's been a thing forever. Though my mom is pro-Trump too. I think largely because of the racism in her case, because she's terrible. She's a terrible, hateful person. She always has been.
Wow.
But he hasn't. And I think that his dissent has been really recent because of the school closing down, and he's just been at home and he's just been listening to this stuff. And in that same call where he disowned me, he's telling me that COVID's a hoax and that they need to go out.
No.
And I'm like, Dad, you're old. You've had a terrible medical history. You take care of yourself. A virus does not have a political party. Wear a fucking mask. Make sure that people around you are wearing masks.
Yeah.
And he just totally thought, it's all bullshit. So I'm like, oh, great. This propaganda machine has come in and brainwashed my dad, and now it's going to kill him.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything about it because I respect him enough to, he can make his own decisions. We have a very central ethic to that. I mean, it's like, even if he's doing the wrong thing, that he can do it because it's his choice. But at the same time, I'd rather him wear a mask so he doesn't hurt anybody else, because I know he would feel terrible if he ever did.
That's so, so, so sad. Is there any way you could just write him a letter, like pouring your heart out? And did you ever have him try and watch my movie? But probably not, right?
Yeah, I don't think that would help him, because he's like so resistant.
Yeah,
to anything, and all of a sudden too. And
but it does happen, like a little chip at a time. It's like chipping away at a mountain.
Well, there's this extra problem too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm his son.
Yeah.
And because of, like, he knows about my wild past and everything that hasn't always been like in the straight and narrow of like absolutely perfect Christian values, then that's a problem. And it's also a huge problem that I'm a zennial, but I might as well be a millennial. So he's got these biases against anything that I say, even though that I'm his own son. So that adds to more problems. The only person that he will listen to is my sister. And so
older or younger?
She's older than me.
Okay.
And everybody loves my sister. And so I texted her after he disowned me, and I go, well, Dad just disowned me, so I guess I'm out of the family. And she's like, what happened? And I go, I made a joke about Trump, and he lost his fucking mind. And she goes, well, he's really political right now. And I go, well, here's the thing. He believes COVID is a hoax. And she goes, oh, my God. So I think she's been trying to talk to him, and that might be why he's mellowed out a little bit. But I still feel that he believes what he believes, because he believes these people are on his side more than his own son, because they have all of these things that, they have all of these like emotional connections, like through Christianity and through this weird idea of patriotism and everything else that he doesn't feel I have. And that even though I'm his son, and I do have a reputation of being who I am, he doesn't accept anything that as I say, as valid, just because of that.
Well, I have an idea. Has your sister seen my film? And sorry, I don't mean to be like...
No, it's a great movie. I don't know if she has. I'll try to make sure that she has.
Because, first of all, she sounds like she's sympathetic to you.
Yeah.
Thank God she realizes that this hoax thing idea is really dangerous. And it sounds like she may have already spoken to your dad a little bit, and it sounds like she's the one who can get through to him. So if she understands it from a really deep perspective, like how dangerous the far right media is, then maybe like she can, whatever she says to him can come from that knowledge and that perspective. You know what I mean?
At least the COVID thing. She's pretty right-wing herself, but she's not hateful.
Yeah, I have no problems with people who just have a different ideology than me. Fine, you can discuss it. But many, the right wing, the far right, I mean, they're just taught that anybody who's not them is evil, bad.
Yeah. Even their own
hates,
kids, especially
hates
their
America.
own kids.
Yeah, especially their own kids. I
It's
know.
like,
my dad disowned me once too.
Yeah.
On the phone because I was on a dating site.
Yeah.
And after I found out that what Republicans were like at that time, I wrote "No Republicans, please." And somehow he caught wind of that, either through my mother or I guess my mother told him.
Yeah.
And he called and left it was the answering machines at the time. He called and left this stammering, like spitting, just sputtering like a camel spits, like so mad, like I can't believe that you don't believe the things that I believe in, and don't ever call me again and ask me for help or anything like that. It was like just a hair shy of disowning me.
Yeah. Well, it was weird. It was weird for my dad because there's a problem too that I am my father's son. I have this past life where I was dealing with creationists, and I would go to creationist lectures and I would treat them like scientific lectures. And I would ask scientific questions and just watch everything devolve. I ruined so many of those meetings. And I would get so many death threats, and then after a while,
on purpose.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Yeah. So you were like a hidden adversary or something.
Well, I actually developed like a method for dealing with this sort of thing because before me there was this attitude in science. I'm a science student. I have a heavy chemistry background, and I also was like really obsessed with history and philosophy of science. And dealing with this sort of thing because, I'm looking at creationism and I'm looking at anti-intellectualism and I'm looking at my culture and my people. And I see how big of a problem it is. And I see all these creeps coming around. So I'm like, well, they're saying that, they're giving me a scientific lecture. So I'm going to go there and treat it like it's a scientific lecture. And then I'd win. I would never go into religion. I would never go into anything like that. I'd be like, well, here's what science needs. I need data. I need methods. This is what I need. And things would just devolve. And I would kill the audience all the time. And believe it or not, in Kansas, creationism is kind of a big thing here. Oh, wow. And I would go into a room full of people. There would be like 100 people, many of them psychos, and I knew that some of them wanted to kill me. I'd received several death threats. There was a death threat against me on the radio that my mom heard. My mom actually heard a death threat against me on Christian radio. And because I was going to go to this guy's thing, and he mentioned that he'd probably see me there, and then it got ugly. And then my mom called me in this really strange kind of one of the nicest things she ever said to me, where she's like, so this guy just threatened to kill you on the radio. And I'm like, yeah, that sort of thing happens. And she's like, well, I hope you embarrass him in public. And I'm like, well, thanks, Mom. But like before that, it was like, I'm the devil. I'm like, whatever, But see, the thing is, what I'm saying here is that I'm his son, right? I have huge balls. I will fight anybody. I will try to defend my culture and my people and try to make things better, even if I'm going to get hurt by it. Now, I love my dad so much. Greatest guy I ever met.
That's a parent.
I can't hang out with him and have him tell me crazy shit and not talk to him about it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Right.
Because I feel like I'm doing a disservice to him.
Right. I still think you should get your sister to watch my movie. I mean, I don't think that it's bashing conservatism.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, it's just talking about the vast right-wing conspiracy and the effects that right-wing media, which came out of that, has on families.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And their personalities. It's about their personalities changing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a psychosis overtakes them.
Yes.
You know, it's not them just like evolving into a different ideology. The personalities change.
Yes.
They almost lose who they are.
Yes. Because the mind, unfortunately, is both a wonderful and a terrible thing.
Boy, is that the truth.
Hey, are you familiar at all with the QAnon conspiracy?
Nah, I'm not. No, tell me about it.
That is a phenomenon. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, I know it's there, you know, but I haven't delved into it that much.
So there is this, you know, this phrase known as conspiracy theory, which is often used as a pejorative, you know. There is a problem with that in the sense that, and I, you know, this is just my perspective of the whole thing, and I'm just trying to show like how the whole thing has more teeth than it absolutely should. So, and much like how Trump shows up and he's calling it fake news, and nobody has any, you know, nobody at a time when people have like the lowest confidence in corporate media at all of actually doing its service. You have this like conspiracy theory pejorative, which just kind of vanishes as being a thing when you do consider that most things that happen are actually conspiracies, right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem in and of itself. Then, you know, you have all of these things where a lot of it's from right-wing media, a lot of it's from kooky stuff, and a lot of it, you know, people start getting invited into this like new form of literature and these new things which, you know, cover these conspiracies, these ideas out of the mainstream, you know, and you'll have things that are absolutely true that people will run into, you know, and like, you know, for example, I don't know if you're aware, but here at the Nonsense Password Lounge, we have a cult known as the Hog Cult. And what we do is we get up to shenanigans. We married a couple of chickens in India. We had a funeral for a puppet. We summoned a demon. And pretty soon we're going to attempt to step out of space-time because of this CIA document that was recently declassified, explaining the process by which somebody can do remote viewing, right? And remote viewing was a thing where it's like, that's just a conspiracy theory. But no, it was actually work done. We have the document right here. It's proven, it's actually on the CIA website as like something that actually happened. So you have all this landscape where you have like all these corporate narratives and all these mainstream narratives, and then you have these side narratives, some of which are true, right? So you get some of these people who are interested in this sort of thing, but the problem is a lot of them are not good at vetting information, you know? And what happens is, much like what happens with right-wing media and everything, you have a narrative start to emerge, right, in these people's minds. And so if something comes at them, they don't really vet it. It just fits this narrative, and they're like, okay, this is absolutely where I'm at. And there's probably a couple of million people in America who are into this QAnon conspiracy. It's very, very pro-Trump. And at the core of it, it sort of like started with this idea about Jeffrey Epstein, and which is actually predates all of this like most recent stuff right now, where we have all these rich people who are pedophiles and they have these sex slave rings. And then the whole thing with Pizzagate after the DNC leaks kept going that way. And that the whole QAnon conspiracy is that, you know, Trump is such a brilliant guy and he's speaking in codes. And at any minute, they're going to round up all of these rich, you know, pedophiles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And get rid of them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And Trump himself is not a pedophile. Right. Even though there are these documents straight out, like these, you know, these straight up court documents naming him as a child rapist. There's all these pictures of him with Ghislaine Maxwell, and on and on and on. Yeah.
That doesn't fit the actual piece, though. There's like, he's in there. But there's this entire worldview, this entire kooky worldview, and most of it's from the internet.
Yeah.
Twitter actually just banned 7,000 QAnon accounts. And Facebook's been chasing them and everything. So, you know, we have a fragmented media landscape. And then, you know, like the 90s were quaint. The 90s were fun because what you had was you had this media landscape that was splitting into two.
Yeah.
But now you have a media landscape that is so many different ways, and these QAnon people are totally fucking lost.
Yeah. They're totally fucking what?
Lost.
Oh, lost. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's right. Yeah, I forgot that they view Trump as some sort of almost like prophet or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's going to round up all the pedophiles. And it's so, I mean, like this.
So he can have a party with them.
Yeah, so he can,
He can round up all the pedophiles, and then they'll invite some young boys and girls.
Because he's looking for friends. Yeah, that's why. That's why he's rounding them up. But it's something that, and you talked about like the Fox effect, where it's like, Fox will do this thing where it'll be total bullshit, and then other news outlets will cover it. And then so the entire thing is cheapened as a whole. QAnon is so wacky that they have, and so vocal that they have a very similar effect on internet media right now as well.
What do you mean by they have a similar effect on internet media?
Like shit will just get wackier. You'll have some wacky thing from QAnon. They'll post it. It'll be a thing for a little while, and there's like this QAnon thing, but then there's like this residual effect in more mainstream sources that you'll see, and so everything is cheapened and crazier as a result.
Yeah, I think what it is there are people. Everybody knows that things are not what they seem.
Yeah.
So there are some conspiracy theories. So they latch on to one, and they're like, this has to be it, because they're saying that they're the right one. So if you can just replace that conspiracy theory with another one, well, I'm not explaining this real well. I think I have to take a sip of my espresso.
I think I know what you're saying, and I think it's what I was touching on earlier.
You
have people in there, and it becomes like an ideology. And when something fits the ideology, it fits the ideology. And it's the same thing you see happen with Democrats and Republicans. They just end up accepting this information for, just because it fits this narrative somehow, even though it doesn't necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily agree with it if it came at them some other way.
Yeah.
There's a couple of million people out there with that exact same mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It spreads it's like a disease. I mean, it's an epidemic. I used to say it was worse than Ebola. Now I might say it's as bad as COVID.
Yeah, because it spreads, right?
Yeah, it spreads, and it's, in a way, it's just like more insidious.
And if these people would just shut up, aka wear a mask, then it wouldn't spread so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's so fragmented. And actually, there's I started getting involved in Teespring a couple of years ago. I started putting designs on there.
On what?
On Teespring. It's a drop shipping company.
Oh.
What you do is you can put your designs on things, and then they will print them when people buy them and send them to them. And they had all these videos around it where they're like, increase your sales on Teespring. Watch this seminar, and they would have like these seminars and stuff. So I checked it out, and I've always been interested in sociology and mass media and all that stuff too. And when I saw this video, what it did is it scared the absolute shit out of me, because you have all these people, you have thousands and thousands of people. What they were advocating was, okay, you make your designs and everything, but what you should do too is you should make Facebook groups, not specifically for your design, but for the type of people you want to attract and market to. And, only throw your designs out there every once in a while, but, otherwise just post certain things that go towards, whatever rhetoric will bring in the people that you like, the people that are most likely to buy your stuff. And so
Right.
there's all these Facebook groups for whatever, QAnon stuff, Trump stuff, wild stuff, whatever. And then they would do it. And I just see this like increased fragmentation of society happening at this point. And I'm
Right.
like, how much of the craziness going on right there is just because somebody's trying to sell a t-shirt?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me feel like we're not going to make it. I mean, back in the day when there was Walter Cronkite and everybody got the same information.
Yeah.
It was, I'm not saying it was the best way, but it was certainly a safer world. People spoke the same language.
Yeah. And you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore.
That's really scary.
Most of the words are logically incompatible with their meanings. And then when you actually deal with them, and what the actual actions are, those are incompatible. Like, this whole idea of like, liberty and freedom, it's like, well, there's federal agents sent to Portland to protect liberty and freedom. Well, why is that? How does that make sense? What is social conservatism anyway? It's just, and
like I have the freedom and the liberty to wear a mask. Well, what about the person whose life you're risking? What about their freedom and liberty?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can't even have coherent conversations anymore. That's why I'm doing my approach, where I'm just trying to teach media literacy better. And then hopefully people will get the kind of standards where it's like, we got to agree on some sort of like term or something, because it seems like that's what the media has really done. They've taken a lot of our language away from us. I mean, we still make noises, but, if you say liberal in the sense that, I'm liberal in the sense that, media should not dictate people's lives. But to some ears, that's going to sound like, the government should dictate people's lives and they're going to force you to gay marry. Right? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just astounding. Yeah. What we have come to.
I was going to ask you to join the cult, but I can't really play the ukulele like this.
Wait, what does the ukulele have to do with the cult?
Well, usually what happens is I ask somebody to join the cult, and then they're like, yeah. And it's so funny because sometimes people will end up at my show and they won't have any idea how they actually got there. And like they won't even realize that it's live, and then they'll realize that it's live. And then like within 5 minutes, I have them joining the cult.
Well, it sounds so goofy and so entertaining, and
we have fun. We
like what? Yeah.
But typically, what happens is they say it, and then I'm like, yeah. Then I play, Buku Yama Yamahag on the ukulele, and everybody freaks out and everybody's happy. But I can't play the ukulele like this because I had to restructure everything.
But what is that a song that you made up?
Yes. All of this is all my own music. The music in the background is mine. I make a lot of music. I make a lot of digital art.
How many hours sleep do you get?
Not enough.
You sound very busy.
I get grouchier progressively on like a 2-week cycle, and then I sleep for a day, and then I'm back up.
Do you mean to say you're not sleeping for 2 weeks, pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I just kind of like fall apart, and then I just go to sleep.
You don't get like 4 hours a night or something?
I get at least 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love to sleep.
Yeah, sleep's good. Sleep's good for you.
I like my naps, and I was serious. Like that is kind of how I meditate, because sometimes my head gets too active and too wired, and I'm thinking too many things at once, and I just have to kind of decompress and calm down. So I go and I lay down on my bed or my couch. I need a new couch, so it's really lumpy. And I just start this process with my mind where I just let it get rid of all the thoughts, and it just starts to wind down, and before I know it, I'm asleep. But it serves as kind of a meditation. And like, it's kind of like shutting down your computer and restarting, because then when I wake up, I feel like, oh, all those confusing thoughts are gone, and now I can start on one thing at a time.
I wish I could do that. I just can't do it.
It takes years of practice. Yeah. Really.
I'm always juggling so many things. I always have so many projects that I'm organizing. And, you know, and then like, if I feel like I'm losing touch with that at all, I freak out. And like, I don't have the best health. I was born with a condition that's really like limited the things that I can do in my life. But I'm like very, very motivated. And because of like all these like tragic events that happened to me and led me to being the poor man that I am today, I'm sort of like a stress eater where I have to work every moment that I'm awake, or else I feel like I'm dying.
So you're really kind of like an A-type personality, if you'll excuse the
I guess. Yeah, I think
stereotype.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
Yeah.
To a fault.
See, See, I'm like that for a few hours, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours straight, and then suddenly I'm like, it's sort of just like fused out, like, whoa, I don't know what to do next or think next, or so I gotta take a nap, and then I'm good to go.
Naps are great. I took this. Are you familiar with Coursera?
No, sounds familiar.
It is a MOOC. Online learning is like a big deal, and Coursera is one of the big dogs. They will have these classes from like all these different universities, and they have this class on there that's absolutely wonderful. It's called Learning How to Learn. And I recommend it to everybody because you can audit all of these classes for free, but you can like straight up take this particular class for free. And I wish that I had taken this class when I was younger, because it would have changed things. It explains how the brain works between focused and diffuse thinking, and like how to manipulate that, and how to learn and how to be more creative in certain ways by manipulating your brain. But also it talks about the importance of sleep, cleaning out toxins, helping your recall, figuring things out. And actually, the teacher, Barbara Oakley, said at one point, well, every moment you're awake, your brain is experiencing low-level trauma.
That's kind of how I feel. That's when I take a nap.
Yeah, it made me feel so good because I was like, I thought it was just me.
Yeah. Great. So if anybody if they want me to, I could teach a class on how to nap. How to take an afternoon nap. It took me years to perfect. Now I'm very, very good at it.
I'm on this other MOOC called Universal Class, and they have stuff. They have like and what it'll give you is like legit continuing education credits. And like I saw a class in there is like taking a walk. They actually, you can get continuing education credits on a class about taking a walk.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow.
That's weird. Like, I can't imagine what they teach you. I guess it would be less like about moving your legs and putting one foot in front of the other, and more about like how to think when you're on a walk.
I don't know. And like, as soon as I get in a mood to take a walk, I'm going to take that class.
That's a good idea.
just to see what's in there. So I can show my job. I'm like, look at my continuing education credit.
Yeah. So are you like an overeater? Do you eat a lot?
No, I actually, because I have this physical condition where I'm typically in a lot of pain because I've experienced a lot of injuries in my life.
Yeah.
I have to really watch my weight and be careful, but I started doing this thing called time restricted feeding, where I eat and drink all my stuff within 9 hours, and then it helps me lower my inflammation so much that it's amazing. It's made me feel so much better. It's also something else that I wish I would have figured out earlier.
Yeah, but I do that.
Inside those 9 hours, I do whatever the hell I want. I pig the fuck out, and then I just feel great.
So between what time and what time do you do that?
It's just sort of whatever happens. I have to keep things practical for me to keep them working. So typically I'll wake up at like 9 or something, and I won't have to be in till about 11 or so, So I'll try not to eat anything until like 10. And and then by 7 I have to be done with everything except for water.
Yeah.
until the next day.
Yeah. That makes sense. I've heard of that. I do that, I think, but not purposely. It's just kind of the way I've structured my day.
Yeah.
Because when I first get up, I don't I don't eat right away. I have a little water. I have a little coffee.
That's such a big deal. Drinking water. I heard about that thing where it's like, I guess in Japan they do that a lot. Where the first thing they do in Japan is that they drink a glass of water immediately.
Yeah.
And so I started trying doing that. Man, that makes you feel great.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you're kind of dehydrated, you know, and water can actually up your blood sugar a little bit too.
Yeah,
it's putting something in your body. So yeah, I feel completely different when I have a little water. I don't drink like a whole glass, but I definitely have, you know, some water. And then I have a little coffee. Then I have a little water. Then I have a little coffee. Then I have a little water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I eat. And yeah, I think everything is within 9 hours.
That's nice. I mean, it makes you feel really good. Anybody that I've told to do this is a big deal. Somebody asked, I'm with Jen Senko. She's a documentary filmmaker. She made the Brainwashing of My Dad, The Vanishing City.
And Roadmap Warrior Women.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that reference, but I can't find it anywhere.
Oh. If you have a DVD player, I can send you a DVD.
You should put it on Prime.
On what?
On Prime.
Prime?
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
I don't think you can just, I think you have to have, I don't think you can just put it on there.
Oh, no, you totally can. You totally can. A lot of independent filmmakers are using Prime to put their stuff on because it's like such an open format like that. But like you have to put things in certain parameters. As long as you own the rights to the film, you can totally do it.
Yeah. It was my first film. But see, all I have is a DVD copy of it. I don't know where the files are anymore.
Yeah. Oh, the DVD, as long as you have a DVD copy, you definitely have a way to do it. You should you should go into my feed and listen to an interview that I did with a fellow by the name of Cody Clark.
Okay.
He's a micro budget independent filmmaker who loves Amazon Prime for putting his stuff up there. I mean, there are some pitfalls to it, but if you listen to that, it should give you a pretty good idea of what exactly I'm talking about there. You can totally do it.
So yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah. Anyway, so that was my first documentary.
Yeah, I was looking for it, and I wanted to see The Vanishing City again. I know that I saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
But I'm so old now, and I got so many interests that I can't remember anything, and I think I do remember parts of that. But I couldn't find that anywhere either. It says it's not available anywhere on Just Watch, but I think it was available.
It's on newfilmmakers.com.
Newfilmmakers.com?
Yeah, The Vanishing City. But it's like, I think it's like $9 to watch or something like that. Oh, I don't know why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But does anybody watch DVDs anymore? Because I have all these DVDs.
Physical media is a big deal because we're all concerned about like the corporate establishment going through and editing movies in the cloud. I do have a question for you. What was your previous career?
I did slides, like I did presentation work, and I managed a department for a while. It was a lot of fun.
You did presentations for what?
Well, believe it or not, I worked for some financial institutions. That's where I learned a lot about how they roll. So, for instance, I worked for Smith Barney for 10 years. And anytime they wanted to show their shareholders, like, more of a profit, they would, and Deutsche Bank did this too, they'd lay everybody off, during a certain period.
Yeah.
And then then the numbers would go in, and then they'd rehire people, they wouldn't rehire everybody. They would just make you, do the work of your neighbor and you. They'd rehire some of you back.
Yeah.
And then there was outsourcing, like my compadres in Deutsche Bank, they actually had to train their Indian counterparts, because they were going to outsource to India.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I did presentations. I when I went to Pratt, I studied communications design, and I'm glad I did, because it did give me a career.
Was that before you met Bill Plimpton?
No, I actually met Bill Plimpton when I was in college, and he was this older animator, and we dated for a little while. Oh, he was so charming, and so.
I bet he's funny. Is he really funny?
Not really.
Not really?
No,
That's
it's
too
all
bad.
in his head. It's all in his head. No, but he finds you funny. Like,
I've talked to him on Twitter a couple of times on in my real life, and he just seems like the nicest guy.
He is. He's very, very down to earth, and he loves doing Q&As, like at these film festivals. He gives everybody time. He's so not snobby. But anyway, yeah. So
God, I'd love to get him on this show. I love Bill Plimpton so much.
He'll do your show. Right? Yeah. I don't know if he'll do it for 3 hours, but he'll do your show. 3 hours. I can't believe you have a 3-hour show, and I can't believe I've been on as long as I can. Usually I'm tired after 20 minutes.
I told you it's going to be easy. Has this been pretty easy?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Are you having a good time?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad. I'm sorry for all the trouble earlier today trying to figure out Podbean. I feel like such a jerk for putting you through that.
Yeah, well, discussing it by email was I think the problem. I think the phone call alleviated it pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's just a compatibility issue with your phone. I don't know if it's a permissions thing or it's just because it's on 10.3.3 and the new update doesn't support that. But
I don't know, but I almost didn't do it.
I'm so glad you did. You're my first guest that I've been trying to get, and I have somebody coming soon. So I got guests coming in. So I'm so happy that you're my first guest.
Oh, thank you.
For the Nonsense Password Lounge.
What?
You're my first guest for the Nonsense Password Lounge. The first guest I had for Nonsense Password was actually Cody Clark.
Oh, but I'm the first guest for this specific thing. Nonsense Password.
Yeah, because you're talking to a live show too, but I'll also post this in my podcast feed.
Mm-hmm. It's all so mysterious to me.
We have fun.
I'm in my own world. My own little world.
Well, it's good. I wish you were in the show with me so you could see what's going on. Because I think you'd be having like even more fun. It's a conspiracy. Yeah. It's all. Did you see that Herman Cain just died yesterday?
Yeah.
And he was at that Tulsa rally, and he tweeted, "We're here and we're not wearing masks. President Trump is here and we're fed up."
But he did say one other time, I wear a mask. But then the pictures of him at Tulsa and other places, he wasn't wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So I didn't know he said that too. What you just said, he said. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tweet. It's weird because it's like, if you could make a hypothesis that, there's a disinformation campaign from foreign governments trying to talk the American population into killing itself. Like, you could make that argument.
Yeah, except that it's the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Mostly, which is trying to convince people that mask wearing is an infringement on their freedom, and that, Trump is the one who first said that COVID was a hoax.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was this trace back I saw recently, I believe it was from Pointer, that was like a lot of this misinformation about the mask came from the White House because Trump was embarrassed that we didn't have masks.
Yeah. Oh.
But then just like in the past week, it seems like he said wearing a mask is patriotic.
Well, yeah, when he saw that the numbers were going up and that, you know, his economy was going to be ruined, then he decided that all of the scientists probably said to him, look, you got to wear masks. People are getting sicker. Yeah. What an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's wild. The whole thing is wild and sad.
Yeah, I love listening to Rick Schmidt.
I don't know him.
Oh, he's an anti-Trump, Republican, and like I said, everybody has different ideologies, and you know, if they respect mine, I respect theirs, whatever. But he is the most poetic person. He says the most amazingly incredible things about Trump, like, and dead serious. Like, he's an idiot, and I'm not being hyperbolic.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you hear about? Did you hear about Louis Gohmert?
Oh, he is the dumbest.
Yeah.
Man,
Did you see him? Did you see him when he was just banging on the table during testimony about Barr? And they were like, keep quiet. And he's like, there's no rule against making noise.
No,
it was one of the it was one of the most ridiculous things I have ever seen. And
usually Jeffries does that, Jim Jeffries.
Yeah, so Gohmert just got COVID, so Nancy Pelosi made it a rule that everybody on the House floor has to wear masks. And I'm like, no, how are we going to get rid of these people? How are we going to get rid of them? That's what COVID is here to do. Let's embrace it. Masks for everybody except for on the House floor. Why don't these people die? Why don't they die anymore?
Well, Herman Cain died. That's one down.
It's
Sorry.
True, but he wasn't serving.
No. But I mean, you know, Trump didn't really. I don't know what he was thinking, but he didn't care about jeopardizing his followers, all of his
I know. Followers. I was like, this is the most amazing thing. It's like, how many of his own voters is he going to try to kill off before election?
Yeah, I mean, I know he's happy that black people are dying, but you know, what about his own followers?
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Did you see? I think it was either yesterday, the day before, he floated the idea of postponing the election.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
he can't do that.
No, he can't do that because that would make Nancy Pelosi the president.
I love that.
I hate it. I mean, it might as well be Joe Biden. I'm just like, well, whatever. But it's
but I mean, it's what a great spite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you just get any more whoops?
Yeah, I know, and it's all for show too, because you know she's supposed to be this great Trump foil, and she can't do anything unless it's non-binding, and then he offers to help her in her primary campaign against him, and she said this weird thing. I've made so many Nancy Pelosi jokes over the years, and I felt really vindicated to a lot of people who I don't talk to anymore, because she said a couple of months ago, she was talking to a group of people, and they brought up the impeachment, and they were they said, why didn't you impeach George W. Bush? And she said, well, we knew that George W. Bush was lying to get us into a war. We just didn't see it as an impeachable offense.
I did hear that. I'm that's the kind of thing that I write about. That's when they were showing up to the AK-47 fight with a smiley face. Yeah.
What's the name of your book? Do you have a expectation when it's going to come out?
It was supposed to be out in September, but then the COVID thing, they kind of closed shop for a while. They didn't have any editors around. Nothing was moving or selling. But then, we talked, and now there's an editor that's working on it. So it's not obviously going to come out this September, which is a shame because everything I'm saying is so people are going to go, you know, it's like before it happens and people are going to read and go, oh yeah, that happened. I know it wasn't that clear, but anyway, that's so they're working on it right now. And then I'm going to get some of it back in August. Like we're going to work on it a little bit more together. But I was working on it for about 2 months straight, and it's in shape. I love the new editor I'm working with. Like she had this whole outline idea, like 'cause it's really a mixture of the vast right-wing conspiracy, proving that there was one.
Yeah.
Showing how it happened, showing how Democrats allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
And the story of my dad. So it's all these elements, and that's kind of hard to get into a book. It was hard to get into a movie.
Yeah.
But she kind of figured out a good way to kind of sew it together. So I was excited about that. But exhausted by the end of those 2 months. Let me tell you, I was exhausted. I did nothing but sleep for a couple days.
You know, you mentioned something when you said that, like, you know, it's going to come out and then it's like, you know, this is going to happen or this happened and then people will be removed. I have this sense that the average person is on so much information overload that, and they don't process any of the information that actually happens to them, that we're largely like goldfish. And we can't remember anything that happens.
Yeah. Well, that's who I am. I can't remember what I wrote in my book. A friend of mine said, well, before you go on any talk shows, make sure you read your book. Yeah. No, but yeah, I just kind of laid out the way I see things happened. You know, there's going to be blood. I hate to say it. Can you hear me?
Do you think so? Do you think there's going to be like a civil war?
They've been pushing for that for the last couple decades, hoping that that would happen. But I see it more as, I mean, because there's not really territories, but I see it more as like these militia groups, the white supremacists.
Who do you, who do you think the opposing parties are in a civil war?
Well, okay, so it's going to be all the right-wing groups, the far-right groups, you know, all the armed militias, you know, like who stormed Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, basically it's a pitchfork crowd with guns.
Yeah.
Okay. They listen to too much right-wing media.
Yeah.
So it's going to be them, and they are going to see anybody protesting like Black Lives Matter, anybody voting for Democrats, they're going to see, like, God forbid, like, okay, if Joe Biden does win, they may surround the White House to protect Trump. I fear that on voting day they'll be there to like guard against some vague nefarious people voting, and basically they'll be like milquetoast leftists, and that's who they'll think are the enemy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there will be blood. That's my prediction, and things are going to get messy.
I expect it mostly to be weird and pathetic. And if there was a civil war, I think it would be between the racists and the non-racists. And so,
well, that's
pretty much it.
It's really the right wingers and anybody who's not like one of these far right people.
Yeah. Are you familiar?
The right wingers who actually vote for billionaires, taxes for billionaires. Sorry, go ahead.
Are you familiar with Amon Bundy from the Bundy Ranch?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw it, but in the last couple of days, he did a Facebook Live where he was explaining his support for Black Lives Matter.
No.
Yeah, because he's actually logically compatible. See, that's the type of Kansan that I was as I grew up. So it's extra heartbreaking to me seeing these people turn into bootlickers. Yeah. And but Amon Bundy is on there, and he's like, he supports Black Lives Matter and defund the police. And he's like, I don't know why this is hard for people to get. You must have some other hang up, some other problem that you're dealing with. And Amon Bundy is logically compatible libertarian, which is a lovely thing. And to see those comments on Facebook Live get increasingly ugly while he's like saying this is a hell of a thing.
Yeah, it's really funny because 2 days ago I was having breakfast with a friend, and I said to her, really what these right-wingers were trained to hate is government takeover. So they should really be fighting for and protecting the Black Lives Matter group.
Yes.
And my idea was get some leaders from the left-wing groups, the Black Lives Matter, and have them go and talk to the leaders of some of these militias and say, look, you guys should be on our side.
What they need is Amon Bundy. Amon Bundy's got a lot of credibility with them, and he just reached out.
That's incredible. Thank you for telling me that. That's great.
Yeah, if you want to see the video, it's actually on my Twitter feed. And the show's almost done here. Thank you, Jen. It's been almost 3 hours. Thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out with me. I hope you had a good time. I wish I could play the ukulele so I could get you in the Colts, potentially.
I wish you could too. I guess the ukulele would seduce me into wanting to be in the cult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the overall goodness of the hog cult, which you can't see right now because you're actually not on Podbean.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So that's all like a foreign language to me.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun talking to you. I'll post this in my feed. It'll probably go live on Sunday.
Okay. Oh, it's not live now?
No, we're live we're like live as in live right now, but as like an actual downloadable podcast, it'll show up on Sunday.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
That's her. That's Jen Senko. I had a lot of fun talking to her. Thank you so much, Jen Senko, for being the first guest on the Nonsense Password Lounge. More guests forthcoming. And if you haven't checked us out already, the Nonsense Password Lounge is on every night, 10 p.m. Central U.S. on Podbean. One of the top shows on there. We have a lot of fun. We go deep. We get weird. We get wild. We get pretty smart. We get pretty sexy. So check us out there every night. Also, please rate the show. Please share the show. And please check in at nonsensepassword.com for all the Nonsense Password projects.